What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to Leon the King TV to another episode of Let's Talk Wrestling. I'm your host, Alex Jordan Adair. But today on Leon the King TV, it's your host, Leon the King, and we're talking here for another edition of Let's Talk Wrestling. So today, first off, I want to go right into it, talking about Keith Lee joining AEW. The latest AEW All Elite Wrestling signing was Keith Lee from WWE. Keith Lee is officially with AEW and is now signed into the roster. He made his debut earlier tonight on AEW, on tonight's episode of AEW Dynamite. And to be honest, I was surprised to see him, but I kind of had a feeling that he was coming. So I was excited to see that Keith Lee made his debut. Um, it's also a sign that, WWE really lost its roster. I said it many times on the show. They've really lost their roster. So now that AEW's roster is looking more bulk and looking bigger and better and more badass than WWE right now. So I feel like Keith Lee coming was a great addition. He's making the roster look much more. I mean, look at all the names they have: CM Punk, John Moxley, Keith Lee, Ruby Soho, Adam Cole, Sting. When you think about it, it's a lot of those names that are in AEW now. You know, Matt Hardy. And next, it's been rumored for a while now we might get Jeff Hardy. That's what I would think the next upcoming signing would be, probably Jeff. So, in my opinion, it's good to see Keith Lee. There's a lot of matches we can get out of getting Keith Lee. You know, matches like Keith Lee versus CM Punk, Keith Lee versus, Sting, Keith Lee versus Darby Allin, Keith Lee versus John Moxley, Keith Lee versus Adam Cole, Keith Lee versus Bryan Danielson. So it's a lot of good dream matches over there that Keith Lee could face in AEW. So this is kind of just the future and the beginning of something new. Next on the show, I want to talk about Shane McMahon still working with WWE. A week ago, I had announced on the show that Shane was no longer contracted, signed with WWE. But now this rumors are starting to leak out that he's still contracted, working with WWE and working for WWE. So these rumors somehow might be true, that he's still working with the company. I believe he's still working with the company, maybe as a producer, or maybe on the writing creative team or the writing team or whatever. But he's still somehow working with the company and still doing things with the company somehow. So it's officially, I don't know much more information at the time, but it is being reported that Shane is still working with the company, with WWE. So on that note, I want to talk about Jeff Hardy. Um, we all know that Jeff Hardy, back in December of 2021, excuse me, December of 2021, Jeff Hardy was released from his contract with WWE, um, due to an incident at a house show. During a tag match with Drew McIntyre, he was released from the company. He was contacted a month ago, back in January last month, about wanting to resign with the company or joining the Hall of Fame. This year's induction for the WWE Hall of Fame, which he actually had turned down a Hall of Fame induction. So my thoughts on Jeff turning down the Hall of Fame induction is, could be a way of him saying he doesn't want to sound old. He doesn't want to be put in a box. He doesn't want to be put in the shelf. He doesn't want to sound like they're making him into this old legend or old veteran. I think he still is a young guy. He still wants to be with the young guys. He can still go and compete with the young guys. He's a young guy himself anyway, so I think that he can show that he can still work with this new era of guys. He can still work with this new generation of guys. I think that he's great in the ring. He's talented. He's been doing it for years. He's a daredevil. He's extreme. He can go, man. I mean, he's a charismatic enigma. So if anything, I think that if he didn't want to be in the Hall of Fame, I respect that. Either way, I respect what he would choose. I would have respected if he chose to be in the Hall of Fame this year, and I would have respected that he didn't. Either way, I don't give too much of a care. I don't give a crap. If he wanted to join, he wanted to join. If he did, he didn't. Therefore, he's still great. He's still the charismatic enigma. You can't take that away from him. He's still one of the greatest there was and ever will be in pro wrestling, and to ever do it in the ring, inside the ring. So therefore, salute to Jeff. But hopefully, we'll see him in AEW. We'll see him sign with a company. He can reunite with his brother Matt. We can get a Party Boys reunion in AEW, and that would be awesome. So hopefully, we see that at some point. But yeah, he officially turned down a Hall of Fame induction, a 2022 Hall of Fame induction for the ceremony this year. He turned down. So therefore, maybe it was frustrations to his release, which I don't know much of the reasoning for his release, but maybe it was just, frustrations with the company or something happened, something was said with management or with Vince, or you never know what would have happened, but therefore, I think that, he just, whatever the reason, he turned it down. I feel proud of him. If he wants to move forward with AEW, he can do that. The guy is at a point where he can go anywhere in his career. He's almost like a free agent now. He can go to any company, any brand, any promotion and wrestle for them and will make a career out of it. So therefore, salutes to Jeff, and hopefully we'll see him in AEW soon. Next, I'm going to talk about possible WrestleMania matches. The possible WrestleMania matches for this year's WrestleMania. First, I want to go off and say I believe that RK Bro needs to break up. I think that Orton needs to have a heel turn on Matt Riddle. I hate calling him Riddle, but he needs to have a heel turn on Matt Riddle, and both of them feud and have a match at Mania. I can see Riddle costing them the Raw tag titles, and it leads to a storyline between Orton and Riddle at Mania. So that's something I think will happen. But yeah, I think that's about time we see Orton turn heel. The last time we saw Orton as a heel was early last year. We saw him, feuding and having segments with Triple H. We saw him having segments with Keith Lee. We saw him having backstage segments with a lot of legends. He was feuding with Drew McIntyre for the world title at Hell in a Cell a couple years ago. So I felt like he was good as long as he was heel. Then turning him, making him goofy, and making him this goofy good guy, I kind of was not invested in his character anymore. So therefore, I feel like it's about time we see him turn heel. We see him have a heel turn. We see him go back to being heel. We see him turning, and we see him eventually having a match with Riddle, and somehow going back to kind of being the heel that he was. 2019, 2020 Randy Orton, where he was just kicking the hell out of people and showed that he was a heel. That's the Orton I want to see. That's the Orton I'd rather watch. Orton that's very vicious, aggressive, and violent. The Viper. That's who Randy Orton is. The legend killer. The Viper Randy Orton. That's who I want to see. Not RK Bro. I'm not invested in RK Bro. The next match that I think I would like to see eventually, the possible WrestleMania match is obviously going to be Sonya Deville versus Naomi. I think that the Sonya Deville Naomi storyline on SmackDown is kind of surprisingly one of the interesting storylines lately in WWE. I feel like it's interesting. Definitely seeing them have a match will be interesting. But I do feel it's going to lead to a match at Mania this year. It's going to lead to a match. It's going to be some sort of segment and confrontations we're going to see for the next month or so until Mania, and then we're going to get the grandest stage of them all, the finale at Mania between Sonya Deville and Naomi. So that's a match I definitely believe is going to happen. Another match that I believe is going to happen is AJ Styles versus Omos from Monday Night Raw. I think that AJ Styles and Omos needs a match There needs to be a feud between the two. I think if you do it on the grandest stage of them all, it would make a lot of sense to do AJ and Omos. Um, AJ and Omos is one of those matches you can really have AJ lose just to push Omos over as his face. You push him as a face in the company, and you build his character as a face, and you kind of continue and see what he can do as a solo competitor in the solo run, in the singles run, as a singles competitor on the roster. So I think that AJ Styles and Omos would be a very good match to see happen. Another good match that I would like to see from Mania possibly would be obviously Damien Priest versus Finn Balor. And this is a very random one because they haven't faced each other before yet, if I'm correct. But the thing I like about Damien Priest versus Finn Balor is the gimmicks. Damien Priest kind of has his gimmick where he has his alter ego, where you wake up the demon, you wake up this character and this evil side of him that is vicious, aggressive, and angry, and he just kicks ass, and he's good. Finn Balor has a gimmick called the Demon King. You wake up the Demon King, and he basically comes and faces you in a match. So I feel like if you look at the similar character gimmicks between Damien Priest and Finn Balor, it makes a lot of sense to see a Damien and Finn Balor match. I think that at Mania, you put the U.S. Championship on the line. You have Balor come back from hiding because God knows where he's been the last few months or weeks. But you do a match between Balor and Priest at the grandest stage of them all, and you put the U.S. Championship on the line, and you put it in an Extreme Rules match. That's how I would book WrestleMania this year, is putting Damian Priest in a singles match against someone like a Finn Balor, and having Priest win as a way to push Priest as a main star and getting him over. So I think that that would be how I would book WrestleMania this year, is doing Damian Priest versus Finn Balor. Another match that I thought about was if they don't do Omos versus AJ, of course we can get AJ versus Edge. I think that AJ versus Edge needs to happen this year. It's a match that is talked about. Fans want it. Fans want to see it. It makes a lot of sense that we get that match. I think that Edge versus AJ, it's different in-ring abilities. It's different in-ring athletics. It's different in-ring styles. But obviously, it's a match that makes a lot of sense because it's a dream match. It's a match that's never happened in the history of the business, ever have happened. So why not book that match on the grandest stage of them all, Edge versus AJ Styles? A title doesn't have to be involved, but a good storyline and a feud and some segments to build up a great match. That's what we need for this match. So Edge versus AJ would be probably one of the matches that I like to see on this list. Another good match, and the final match that I want to see on tonight's list in the episode is Sasha Banks versus Trish Stratus. I think that if you get Trish Stratus to come back and you have her work a program or work a match with Sasha Banks, that would be amazing. I think that Sasha and Trish could really pull off something. I think that the in-ring ability is good. The talent between the two of them is good. The athleticism. I think that they could bring a lot to that match. I think that if you have Sasha and Trish, it's the first time it'll ever happen. Because I think in the history of the women's division, it's never happened before one-on-one. If I'm correct, it's never happened one-on-one before. So I think that's something that will be amazing to see. Is Trish versus Sasha. So why not see a Trish versus Sasha match, at Mania? So those have been my 7 or 8 dream matches for Mania this year. And then another match, obviously, for WrestleMania, I think would be awesome, is the Cena versus Goldberg match. I don't think we've gotten Cena versus Goldberg ever. Cena versus Goldberg is a match that has not been happening in the books. It's not happened. That's how I book. I feel that if you're going to have the greatest pay-per-view, the biggest pay-per-view event of the year, you do matches that we haven't gotten. You do dream matches. matches. You do fantasy booking matches. That's what's entertaining. That's what fans want. Give the people what they want. And what they want to see is these matches that have not happened before. You want to see a Goldberg versus Cena. You want to see a Damien Priest versus a Finn Balor. Or a Kane versus the Demon King Finn Balor. You want to see those kind of matches. So it's just like you book what people want. And I think WWE is at a point where they, for years now, don't know how to book what people want to see. And that's something their creative team really needs to take notes on, is how to book what people want to see. So, for the most part, honestly speaking, that's what I want to talk about tonight, was booking what people want to see. A lot of people want to see things that they haven't seen before. This is show me generation. You gotta show me that you're good. Show me that you're interested. Show me and make me believe that I can be invested in the product again because something is interesting and entertaining and I want to see it. And it's worth the money that I pay for a seat to go to WrestleMania and watch. So that's the kind of things that people want to see. They want to be invested. They want to watch. They want to see and be entertained. Make them entertained. Give them stuff they have not seen before. Give them a match that has not happened. So that's my whole belief when it comes to booking a WrestleMania and making the grandest stage of them all the grandest stage of them all. The showcase of immortals. That's what WrestleMania is, the showcase of immortals. Make us feel like this is the showcase of immortals. So that's what I want to talk about tonight. Make sure you guys leave a comment, hit that subscribe button. Whatever you do, please hit that subscribe button. Stay safe. And thank you guys for watching Let's Talk Wrestling. And keep on staying subscribed to Leon the King TV. Good night. Thank you guys.